Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Northern Soul Reaper and today we're going to be reviewing Chapter 9 of Guardian of the Witch, so let's get right into it. So before we get started with the review proper, if you like this kind of content, please consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel and ringing the bell. That's the best way to get the content as and when it comes out. It's a great way to support the channel. Now, as always with these Guardian of the Witch review chapters, this is a spoiler warning before we get started, so if you want to go away and read on the Shonen Jump app and come back and then we can discuss the chapter. So Chapter 9 of the Guardian of the Witch is entitled Drake's Training, and it picks up exactly where we left off last week with Drake and Fafner going to begin their training. This is the next day from Drake's challenge where he said you have 3 days to try and surpass me from the last chapter. And it begins with Drake showing Fafner a lightning seed. It's a little seed with like a lightning bolt on it, and he says, crush that in your hand. And Fafner does it and he gets like a little static shock. And Drake says, most people can't really produce anything more than just a little static electricity when they use these. However, when I amplify it, and he crushes it and amplifies the electricity, and just this massive explosion of crackling electricity pours out from his hand. And he goes on to say that whilst most Guardians can't do that with magic themselves, they can boost and amplify their witches' powers just a little bit during battle, and that makes all the difference, especially when you're facing off against witch guardian teams. And Fafner realizes that that must be what Gen and Ruli were doing in the fight. He realizes that Gen must have been amplifying and boosting Ruli's power to take some of the strain off her. And Drake says that this is absolutely paramount during a battle like this. And Drake goes on to say that over the next 3 days my training's going to be, merciless. You can whimper and beg all you want, but I won't stop. Just give me all you've got and try to stop me from killing you. And with that he starts the battle, and he comes at Fafner and he's like slashing left and right, and Fafner can't believe how powerful each strike is. And as Drake's coming at him, swiping left and right, Fafner finally sees an opening during this bout and he goes for him, but Drake manages to use an icicle seed and he amplifies it just as Fafner's sword strike is about to hit, and a big icicle comes out of the floor and blocks it. Fafner's sword gets stuck. Drake uses the opportunity and gives Fafner a little love tap, gives him a punch, and he knocks him to the floor. And Fafner's, seeing this power of being able to amplify and change magic is proven quite useful during even just a normal sword sparring fight. And whilst Fafner's kind of reeling from this, realising that, this magic is being used to block his attacks, Drake says, your attacks are too straightforward. You've got to be clever and outwit your opponent. In a battle, it's the last man standing who wins. It's not the most talented one. It doesn't matter how flashy your sword moves are. If you're left dead at the end of the battle, if you're not the last man standing, you lose. He says, come at me with all you've got and be dirty about it. Come at me with everything you've got. And after some more training, Fafner is left completely exhausted, and Drake says, that's all for today. We go again tomorrow, and I won't go as easy as I did today on you tomorrow. And Fafner's like, the jerk isn't even winded. He's obviously in awe of this Drake's power, this ex-Guardian's power. At which point, Manafsa wakes up. Oh, she is woken up and she comes along and she starts to speak to Fafner. And she asks, are you okay? And Fafner's like, am I okay? Don't worry about me. How are you feeling? And she's like, yep, the medicine that Drake gave me totally made me fine. I'm all good now. And Manafsa immediately begins resuming her goading. She's like, oh, you got beat up, lame. And then Fafner's like, lay off a bit, will you? But as usual with this kind of, where Manafsa kind of teases him a little, there's always something at the heart of what she wants to say, and she's like, isn't it too much what you're doing? Do you have any regrets? Do you wish that you didn't have to work so hard? And Fafner doesn't really know what she means. He's like, what do you mean? And Manafsa says, look, let me put it another way. Do you wish that you hadn't have saved me that day? If you'd have just killed me, you wouldn't have had to have gone through all of this. And she says, you worked really hard to become a Guardian. You worked your way up to be the best in the city-state. It's like, those are the people that get selected to be Guardians, and you threw it all away to help me. And she says, you once told me that you want to build a world without witches. What happened to that goal? If you'd have just killed me, that's one less witch, and you're one step closer to that goal. And Fafner's like, yes, I've despaired a little bit, I do have doubts, but I don't regret becoming your guardian, and I don't regret what I did. And he goes on to explain again about how his family was eaten by an evil who was once a witch, and he says that instilled this hatred of witches. He hated the very idea of them, and he said he told himself that if he had to kill Manafsa, that would make everything better. But when it all came down to it, he remembered that the one he was really mad at was himself, because he lived while his family died. And when it all came down to it, if he killed Manafsa, then it would just be the same cycle over and over again, that cycle of hatred of himself. He wouldn't really be solving anything. He would have the same regret. So he says he's not going to let her die, and he makes sure she knows at this time. He's like, you got that? And she's like, you're dumb. I was just egging you on to make you fight a little bit harder. And she's like, obviously back to teasing him, but I'm glad that we got that kind of heartfelt moment between the two again. So it then skips to 2 days later, so basically the end of the training, and Drake's remarking about how his skills have improved, dramatically over just the last couple of days, but he's saying about how his attacks are still a bit too straightforward. But then at that moment, Fafner goes in with his sheath and his sword for an attack, which Drake manages to block. However, it was a feint. Fafner used his sheath, let that get battered out of the way, and he comes back at him with his sword. But and Drake is genuinely impressed by this, but it's still not quite enough, and he manages to knock Fafner down. But he does remark that last attack wasn't half bad. But Fafner's now thinking, oh crap, this is like the last day of the training, I don't have any time. So he gets up and he's like, please, one more time, let's go one more time. I'm not going to let you get rid of me, dismiss me this easily. Let's go, let's have one more bout. And Drake basically says to him, no, we are done for today. You're never going to be strong enough to beat me alone. Tonight you need to bring Manafsa. He says, you've been absorbing all of this magic ability and these attacks all this time with the seeds. They're a training tool used to train guardians and witches together. You've absorbed all this magic over these 3 days, and you now have enough knowledge of the magic within you that you will be able to boost Manafsa's power. So come tonight, and you will, we'll have another spar as a witch guardian team. So as night falls, Fafner and Manafsa get ready to face off against Drake together. And Drake remarks once again that the moon is really pretty, and he says she loved the moon, and he's talking about his witch that he had to kill. And he reminisces, and there's a little bit of a flashback scene where she says, I'm so glad that they gave me such a gentleman as my guardian. And Drake says, I'm really sorry, but I can't afford to be much of a gentleman today. So Fafner says to Manafsa, don't worry Manafsa, I can feel it now, I can feel the flow of your magic. And he says it's that magic that was bubbling in the air and he was bombarding me with over the last 3 days. I can feel it, and I know how to boost it and control it now. And with this instilled confidence that he knows Manafsa's magical flow, and he thinks he's got enough to be able to control the magic, he says, Mr. Drake, here I come. And Drake says, bring it. And that's where the chapter ends. This was quite a strong chapter in terms of character development. We get quite a lot going on. It begins with the fighting between Drake and Fafner, and we learn a bit about the training that guardians go through to be able to learn how to control the magic. Not quite sure why Fafner was never subjected to this. Maybe it's because Manafsa's powers were so potent that they never deemed it necessary, and also they've never been out to hunt a guardian witch team. So it's possible that because Manafsa is basically only used to protect Burn, Fafner's never had to use Manafsa's powers and boost her powers because he's never really needed to. He just has to be their defender against the evils that might breach the wall. But we get a bit of lore behind that, and we also get the great moments between Fafner and Manafsa where she's asking him about all this stuff about, do you regret coming with me? And Fafner tells her that no, and you get some sort of reconciliation between them, because I think before now it was kind of just he hated witches, he decided not to kill her at the last second, and now they're on a journey to find out how to stop her from turning into an evil and how to reverse the process. But we get a bit more development of why Fafner changed his mind. And it all stems down to that he was angry at himself, and he put that anger onto witches, and it was a misplaced anger. Instead of hating witches, he should have been hating evils, but also the state that did this to the girls, and he should be looking for a way to save everyone, and that's what he wants to do now. His new goal is obviously to save everyone, which we found out in a few chapters. He wants to make a world free of witches, but rather than kill them all, he wants to reverse the process and save the witches, because they're just people too. And I like this character development moment between the two of them, where Manafsa was kind of teasing him at first and then going on to ask him these questions. It was a really great scene, I liked that. And then we get the build up for the next chapter, which is going to be Fafner applying what he's learned and all this magical resistance that he's built up over 3 days, and he gets to fight Drake with Manafsa, and it's going to be this Guardian Witch combo team, and I'm really looking forward to the next chapter for that. These last couple of chapters have really impressed me, and I think that the series is finding a bit more of its footing on what it's trying to be and what it's trying to tell, the story that it's trying to tell. So I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, like I say, I really like this one, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this chapter. Leave a comment, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this chapter in particular and the series. Let me know what your thoughts on the series so far are. My kind of overall feelings on it are that I like it, I like the premise, I like what it could be, but it's only been the last few chapters that have really kind of started to make it feel like a sustainable series, and that actually has a goal in mind. It felt a bit aimless before. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on the video. I also have social media. I have Instagram and Twitter. There are links down below. You can follow me there. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Northern Soul Reaper, and until next time, goodbye.